I rate this one hot garbage. Are you the cutest pope in the whole world? One that cusses, that drinks alcohol, that plays with the head of a corpse. That's the kind of priest that I need. Hello, creeps. And here, happy Halloween. Happy Halloween, everybody. I'm very excited that today is Halloween. I hope you guys have a great October 31st today. I've got my Michael Myers shirt on. Can you see him back there? Well, over on Instagram, I asked you guys what you wanted to see for today, and I was really surprised that most people had said that they wanted to see the movies that I watched this month. And so that's what I'm doing here today. Don't worry, I'll still have my October wrap-up of books. I'll just do it not on Halloween. I just wanted to know what you wanted to see on Halloween. And if you didn't want to see the movies that I watched this month, then I just wouldn't have posted this video. But it turns out that some people do, so here we are. Anyways, my friends, I did not watch as many movies as I would have liked to. I think I watched 10-ish, 11-ish, something like that. However, I did read 10 books this month, and I did try to post I did post 2 to 3 videos a month, I think, or a week. So I think I did okay. It's been a rather busy month. Let's just get into these movies. These are the ones that I have watched this year. Basically, I've ranked them in a category from 1 to 5. Quick disclaimer, because every time I post a video about liking movies, I don't know what it is. I don't get a lot of rude comments about books, but about movies, people get really sensitive. So just know, if I like a movie you don't like or vice versa, it's all good. It's subjective. So let's start with our first category here. This is called I Couldn't Scare Less About These. There's honestly only one in this category, and that is Halloween Ends. Like I always say, I do think that horror movies, art in any form, is subjective, but I think Halloween Kills and Halloween Ends are objectively not good movies. Correct me if I'm wrong, and if you like them, that's totally fine, but if you do like them, please leave me a comment and let me know why, because I just can't figure it out. And here's the thing, I'm not one of those people that's like a gatekeeper. You can't ever remake Halloween. I know that remakes are going to be made. I watch a lot of remakes. In fact, some of my favorite horror movies are remakes. But what I will say is that I think that the movies should add something to the genre or that like section of movies. And I would even argue that the first Halloween in this trilogy does that. It takes something that started out scary because of the use of light and shadow, and it turned it into this like very brutal film, right, with a lot of blood and guts. And I guess you could argue that the Rob Zombie one did that too, but I do think that whether you loved or hated it, I do think that it added something. Whether that was something that you liked or not is a complete different opinion, but I think Halloween Kills and Halloween Ends and Kills, I don't think they did that. I think they tried way too hard to try to make them social commentaries or like highbrow horror movies, more of these advanced intellectual horror movies that we're kind of seeing pop up here or there, and I just think that it failed miserably. And also with Kills, I gotta be honest with you, you make a Michael Myers movie and you put him in for 5 minutes of the movie, it's not a Halloween movie. It seemed to me, without trying to be too cruel, that Halloween Kills and Ends, it felt like they just started filming before they even wrote the movies. Correct me if I'm wrong, let me know. Anyways, I rate this one hot garbage. Our next category is Hextra Cute. I actually gotta figure out what this movie is called. The next movie that I watched was called Little Monsters, and this was one, it was not one that I would have ever picked up by myself. We just watched it at a friend's house, and it's like a cute horror comedy movie. It's about a kindergarten teacher who accidentally gets trapped in the middle of a zombie apocalypse with her students and like will do anything to try to protect them. So it's a cute movie, and it is funny in some parts, but just not a movie that I would have picked up. But I still think that it's cute, and if you guys like horror comedies, then you'll probably like this one. The next category I called Mediocre. A lot of these I googled, but I made that one up myself, so I feel very proud of that. And these movies aren't necessarily mediocre movies, but I just needed something that was kind of like a mid-range word, you know what I mean? Just something in the middle that wasn't the worst movie ever, but it wasn't the best movie I've seen. So anyways, that's what I came up with. The first one we have here is the new Evil Dead movie. Now, I'm gonna go on a little bit of a rant here, okay? If you'll just humor me for a second. I knew I wasn't gonna like this one because I love the 2013 Evil Dead movie. I love it. It's one of my favorite remakes ever made. I watched it so much, my brother owned it, I watched it so much that he said, just take it and he gave it to me because he was sick of me always asking to borrow it. So I knew I had reservations going into this one already. I kept very low expectations, and I was like, I know I'm not gonna like this one because I love 2013 so much, but let's see what you got. And this is kind of what I was saying with Halloween, was if you don't add something to those particular group of movies, I just feel like make something else, you know? But if you're willing to add something like I think the 2013 movie did, then I'm okay with it. Now, the 2013 movie, I loved the characters. I love the idea of the person coming off drugs. And so you're like, she's kind of acting weird, but also she's coming off drugs. The practical effects were amazing. That scene at the end is one of my favorite scenes ever with the chainsaw. If you know, you know. There's so much I love about that movie. Yeah, I just think it's one of the best remakes ever made. So now let's talk about this new Evil Dead movie that came out. It's about these people. Instead of it taking place in a remote cabin, it takes place in LA, and it's about somebody getting possessed and then that possession slowly transferring to other people, kind of, you know, the same as the premise of other Evil Dead movies. But the problem, I think, for this one, for me, was, well, there were a few. One, I didn't care about the characters. I truly didn't. There was nothing that connected me with them. My husband felt the same way. He had no connection to any of the characters either. I thought it was weird that there was a character who's pregnant. I know I didn't ruin anything. You find out in the first few minutes of the movie. But every about 20 minutes in the movie, she goes, ugh. Now, I don't have children, but I've known pregnant women and they don't do that. And so that really confused me. I was like, what is the purpose of it? It was very odd, an odd choice. I also thought that it was extremely brutal. So if that was their only attribution to the Evil Dead franchise, then I suppose they succeeded in that. However, even with the brutality aspect, it seemed like every scene I had seen before. Like I could seriously watch it and be like, ooh, that kind of reminds me of this movie. Ooh, that kind of reminds me of this movie. Oh, that definitely reminds me of this movie. And it just seemed like if you can pinpoint the inspiration behind the scene of every movie and just put them together, it just doesn't seem as original as it would have if you tried to kind of think outside the box. That, again, is just my feeling for this movie. I just don't think it really added much difference. There's also, again, I don't want to give too much away, but like, there's a core family and then there's other people, and let's just say that the possessed person can kill other people very quickly, but then the people in the family, it takes 2 hours to try to transfer to them, right? And so that, to me, it was like, well, that could have been the cool thing that you use, you know? You could have gotten information that this thing plays mind games with the people that it's closest to, and that could have been a cool addition to the movie, and you make it a little bit more psychological. Something that just added something. And this movie, I just feel like failed on all fronts. And I'm gonna be completely honest, I watched the first scene of the movie, and I went, oh, maybe I won't hate this. Like, maybe they did an okay job with this. And then I watched the rest, and it was just such a letdown. I did not enjoy it. And that's my feeling about that one. I'm sorry I had to go on such a rant, but I have such a special place in my heart, even for the original, the Evil Dead movies, Army of Darkness. I love that franchise. And so this was just a big disappointment to me. And I don't think that brutality equates to a good horror movie, and I think that this was evidence of that. Next up, we have Dark Harvest. You guys know I did a whole movie versus book on this. You can check that out if you want to, but basically it's just a rendition of the book Dark Harvest by Norman Patridge, and the book just blew my mind, and the movie was just a little underwhelming for me. It's about this October boy that comes alive once a year. He has a pumpkin head and a scarecrow body, and all the kids in town, the ages 16 to 19, have to try to kill him, and if they kill him, then they win a sort of prize. It was cool to see something original be made into a film, and that's why it's in this category. It was by no means the worst movie I've ever seen, but they could have made it way cooler if they followed the book a little bit more closely. And so I was just a little confused at the changes that they made, but regardless, it was like a middle of the line type of movie for me, I think. The next one that I watched was called Vivarium, and this was on Netflix. This one was about a couple who they're trying to buy a first home, and so they go into this tract of newly developed houses, and they're taking a tour, and their tour guide just leaves, and they can't leave themselves. They can't figure out how to get out of there. And so they're almost in like an alternate dimension kind of thing, like they're stuck in that tract of homes. And I thought that this one was pretty interesting and I rather enjoyed it. I really do enjoy psychological movies where you have to like really sit and think about what it means and what's going on and what it means to you. And so in that sense, I really did enjoy the movie. I thought it was pretty unique and it wasn't like anything I've really seen before. I will say that at the end I was like, oh, that was really good. I'm talking to my husband about my interpretation of the film and he ends up Googling what the movie meant to the director. And I gotta be honest, it ruined it a little bit for me. I was a little bit disappointed in that. And I think this is where I really truly feel like if you're gonna make something, you keep that to yourself, because you could potentially make someone like what you did less if you give your interpretation of it, because at the end of the day it doesn't really matter what your interpretation was. You did your job, you made it, you released it into the world, and now it's up to the audience what they think it is. You know, everybody brings their own experiences, their own theories, their own morals and values and everything with them when they're going to watch a film. And I think that a lot of the time it does kind of do a disservice to people who are viewing the art and thinking about it for what it means to them. And so yeah, kind of a bummer that I saw their vision and went, ooh, but I did really enjoy it at first. So I'm curious if you guys have seen it and how you feel about it. The next one here I have is Phenomena. This was a Dario Argento movie. Shudder says it's from 85, but the dates on Shudder have been historically messed up, so I wouldn't trust that too much. And this one has Jennifer Connelly in it, and there's a great cast. It is an interesting film, but I gotta tell you, it's a strange one. Jennifer Connelly is a girl that's going to like a boarding school, I suppose you can call it, out of the country. She's American, and so she goes to this boarding school and finds out that there are girls who are being murdered. She has like a telepathic abilities to communicate with bugs, and she tries to use that to solve who's murdering these people. There's also an ape thrown in there, and there's also a wild soundtrack. I mean, wild. So all in all, a very strange movie, kind of like a fever dream type of feel to it. It's not my favorite Dario Argento. It's kind of like what this category is, kind of mid-range type movies for me, but I think it was worth a view, especially, you know, for you guys if you like Italian horror films. It's in English, but it's by an Italian horror director. So if you guys are big fans of Dario Argento or Italian horror, then that might be something that you want to visit and see. There's obviously scenes in there that I think are worth the watch, but an odd one for sure. This next category is irresistible. This is probably gonna surprise people that this is even on my list, but I watched The Pope's Exorcist, and I honestly I wouldn't have watched it, but I got a comment a few months back from one of you saying that you really enjoyed it. And so when I was watching horror movies with my husband, he doesn't like things that are old. He doesn't like movies that are foreign. He doesn't like reading subtitles. He doesn't like black and white. There's a lot of things that he won't watch. And so we just kind of go to Netflix and have him pick what he wants. And so I gave him a few movies and we decided on The Pope's Exorcist, and I was like, oh, this will be like a fun little whatever movie. I had zero expectations going into it. I'm like, I know it's not going to be good, but you know, we'll just watch it. And it ended up surprising the crap out of me. Going in with low expectations, like if you hear this and think it's going to be the best movie ever, you'll probably be disappointed. But if you kind of go in expecting what it is, an exorcist movie, which have, you know, a lot of the same tropes in it, there's nothing too outrageous in here, but I think there are a few things in this movie that separate it from other exorcist possession type movies that I've seen, and one of them is the comedy. It's so funny, and I gotta tell you, the priest in this movie is hilarious. If I ever get possessed, hire a priest like this, one that cusses, that drinks alcohol, that plays with the head of a corpse. That's the kind of priest that I need. And so I really liked the comedy aspect of it. I obviously didn't expect that going into a possession type movie, so I really enjoyed that. And secondly, I thought that the scenery and the locale in which this was filmed was just really interesting. Those two things I think played together to make it an original experience, even though it had a lot of the same tropes that it always does. And it wasn't anything that was like wildly creepy or anything like that, but it was just sort of fun. Like, that's what I would say. It was fun. And even at the end, my husband's like, I'm surprised you like that movie so much. Oh my gosh, I just remembered something else he said. He said because of all of the CGI and stuff. And I'm like, no, yeah, I'm surprised I liked it too. Can I tell you something? We watched Halloween Ends together, And at the end he goes, wouldn't it be funny if they pulled off Michael Myers' mask and it was Captain Kirk the whole time? And I laughed so hard. I thought that was hilarious. Oh, and this inspired my Halloween costume that I picked out for my dog. So let me just place a little video in here for you from that. Are you the cutest Pope in the whole world? If you would have told me that I would be the type of person that would buy a Pope costume for my dog, I would have said you were crazy. And look, here we are. Also, this is the package that it came in, and it says, His Holiness says feed me, now let us play. Cutest little Pope in the whole world. And there you have Pope Mosley. The next one that I liked was Tenebrae. I think that's how they pronounce it in the movie, but it's just darkness in English. Another Dario Argento film, Italian horror director, but this one is in English as well. And this movie I really enjoyed. It's about a guy who's a famous writer. There's an obsessed fan who's kind of using his words against him and sending him letters and stuff after he commits murders. And you just kind of go on this journey trying to figure out who the murderer is. For this one too, it's kind of like if you enjoy these Italian type horror films, those yellow, hold on, let me find the word because I'm going to pronounce it incorrectly. Giallo. That, if you enjoy those Italian horror films, then this movie will be right up your alley. For other people, I don't know that I would necessarily recommend this for everyone, but if you really like those stylistic horror films, I mean, the scenes in this, the way that it's shot are really cool. The settings of the murders are really cool. Some of the kills are fantastic. There's one in mind that just really blew me away with this one. So yeah, if you like those films, even if you don't, you might want to check this one out. I liked it. I thought that it was a good movie. I don't know that it's my favorite Dario Argento again, but it is up there. Now let's move on to my fifth category, and these are called monster pieces. The first one is Halloween 3: Season of the Witch. This is one of my favorite horror movies ever, to be honest. This is one of my favorite Halloween movies in the Halloween franchise, and as well as movies to watch for Halloween. I absolutely love this movie. There's so much I love about this. For example, there are just amazing scenes in here. The demonstration scene, the misfire scene. I mean, you just can't get better than that. I really like Cochrane's plan. I think it's just a fantastic premise for a movie. A little weird, but it's still awesome. I like his out-of-town workers. I really enjoy the little breadcrumbs that are just kind of left for you to pick up throughout the movie. Nothing boils my blood more than, like, let's go back to Halloween Kills for an example. You zoom in on a knife, and then the guy walks away, and then you zoom in and the knife's not there. It's like, how stupid do you think I am? It seems like a lot of modern day horror directors or writers, whomever is making these decisions, really don't give the audience enough credit. And so I really appreciate movies like this where you get breadcrumbs left for you throughout the movie, and by the end you have some idea of what's going on. Maybe not the whole picture, but you can figure out some of it. I love this movie. I am so thankful that this movie exists, and I would really like to, you know, if one day we could switch to other dimensions just for a little bit, I would love to go in a dimension where John Carpenter was able to make different Halloween movies every year and just see what he created, because this is one of my absolute favorite movies. I watch Halloween 3: Season of the Witch every year, and every year I enjoy the crap out of it. Next up, let's go to my favorite movie that I watched all October, and that is called When Evil Lurks. And this is a Spanish horror film. Just to be clear, it's an Argentine supernatural psychological horror film in Spanish. Again, Shudder says it's from 2023. I don't know for certain, but this one is on Shudder as well. And it is subtitles. This is the only one on the list that's in subtitles, but worth the watch. I thought this movie was fantastic. It's about two brothers. They live on this farmland, and they hear gunshots in the middle of the night. When they investigate the next day, there is a man torn in half and eaten by animals, and they can't figure out you know, where he came from or why he's there. They end up finding some odd tools with him, as well as a piece of paper indicating a different neighbor. When they go to their house, they find that her son is possessed. And so they try to figure out what to do with this possessed person. It's really interesting seeing what a different country does with a subgenre of horror that we experience so much. Possession movies are a dime a dozen in the US, and they're always the same. I mean, the majority of time it's one possessed person and everyone's trying to save that one person's soul. And on occasion you get like the Evil Dead where there's a transference of some kind, but it's usually contained to a small area as well. Well, what happens in this movie is there are rules that one must follow, and it's not like a priest comes from the Vatican to save the day, but they are people within the church that know how to help these spirits. And so if somebody who doesn't have that knowledge tries to fix the problem, it can make things a lot worse. And that's what happens when these two brothers intervene, and they end up unleashing evil onto the world. And there are some messed up scenes in this movie. The practical effects, fantastic. The originality, absolutely awesome. Is it the best horror movie ever made? No. But is it worth a watch? 100%. I loved this movie. I thought that it was great. It was creepy at times. It was a blast to watch. A few of the scenes really caught me off guard, you know? You're like, ooh, something feels a little, oh, that's what's gonna happen. It was so much fun to watch. So highly recommend this one if you guys are into foreign films with subtitles, and if you're into just kind of taking an adventure and seeing what a different country can do with a subject matter that is just like so over, what's the word I'm looking for? Overabundant, I guess, in the US. So that's my ranking of all the movies that I have watched this October. Please feel free to leave your favorites down below. Let me know if you guys have seen these, how you feel about these ones, and also happy Halloween. I hope you guys have a fantastic day. I hope you guys have a lot of fun, and I hope you guys eat a lot of candy and carve a lot of pumpkins and watch a lot of horror movies. And I will see you soon with another horror video. Bye guys.
I got nightmares in my head, I fear that the thoughts build up until I can't hear, that my mind fills up into a creature, and it haunts me somewhere much deeper.